Hello, dreamers, and welcome back to the In Focus session, which is the kind of part of the podcast where we dive into one subject at a time and really kind of break it down and understand a bit more. And as per the previous two episodes, I'm joined by John Dashfield, and this is part 3 of 4. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about purpose. But before we do start, for anyone who hasn't listened to the previous two, which, by the way, you're missing out on, so go and listen to them after you've listened to this one. John, can you explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure, Alex. So I've got a business where I coach entrepreneurs and business people, which I've had since 2004. Although my interest in what you might call psychology or how to get the best of out of ourselves has been a 30-year experience for me. So really, what I'm doing is through just sharing a certain understanding with people, I'm helping them to be the best version of themselves more of the time.
Yeah.
Rather than giving people tools and strategies and ideas.
Yeah.
Which is what I used to do a long time ago, and then I really found that doesn't really work that well. So
you found your purpose, you could say.
Yeah, exactly.
So segueing in nicely into that. So on the previous two episodes, we spoke about the concept of time and how that may be a barrier for some people, and we kind of broke that down. And then we spoke about overthinking and how that's a barrier for some people, and we broke that down. So a lot of the time, a lot of the conversations I have when I go and talk in schools or colleges, or people message me online, or I speak to friends, or people reach out to me, a lot of the time, funnily enough, we were driving to grab a sandwich earlier in the day today, and I had a message from someone who basically asked about how do I find my purpose, was pretty much the wording of the question. So how is that? First of all, what is purpose? And then secondly, how can someone find it? Can someone find it? Does it exist?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. Well, let's create a bit of context. First, so it speaks more directly to perhaps what people want to know. So I'm going to throw it back to you just for a moment and say, well, what do you mean by purpose?
Yeah. So I guess a purpose to life for a start.
Yeah.
You know, pretty much most importantly. And secondly, a purpose to what they do. So a lot of people, so the person who messaged me earlier, I'm not going to name names obviously, but he's doing a job that he doesn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a side hobby that he does enjoy, which he's kind of, from what I understood, had stopped doing so much. So again, it's that I always see it as two things. There's living with purpose and having purpose. So what I kind of want to do is break down the people who feel like they have no purpose in life or in what they're doing. How can you find it, create it? Can you even do that? Like I said, does it even exist? What's the kind of, how would you explain or break down that process of understanding the need for purpose, I guess?
Sure. Okay. Well, it's interesting that we're together talking about this, because maybe a month ago, I wrote a blog post called Finding Your Purpose.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been on my mind. So it's quite useful that we're speaking here now. And one of the quotes that I used in that blog post, I printed it out and I'm going to read it because it's not committed entirely to memory, but it's a very famous one. There's a very famous clip of Steve Jobs. It's easy to find on the internet, and he's speaking at Stanford.
Yeah, I know the one.
And he says, you've got to find what you love. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. Yeah. So, Steve Jobs, one of the greatest entrepreneurs of, our age, has kind of come out with that. But see, the problem with that is that it sends people in the wrong direction, because it alludes to that your purpose is outside and independent of you, and you just have to find it, right? Well, the bottom line is, well, what if you don't?
Yeah.
What if you don't find it? What do you do then? See, and it's
which is so, to cut you off, but which is where I feel most people find themselves, is that they can't find it or they haven't found it, and then they're like, oh, but I'm supposed to find my purpose. What do I do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which to be honest, that's the rabbit hole that is so easy to fall into for people. You see, because if you think that your purpose is outside and independent of you, and you have to keep looking for it, and until you find it, the experience that you have of your life will be, let's say, a lack of purpose, or or even that idea, well, I haven't found my purpose yet. See, that really is at the root of the whole idea of I haven't found my purpose yet, because it's not. See, let's go back to all. Okay, so why is this idea of purpose so interesting to people in the first place? See, like your friend, well, because he doesn't like his job, and there's something else that he likes doing where, he's enjoying it. And what people think is that a sense of purpose is going to give you a much greater sense of being alive.
Yeah.
Basically, so when we're full of purpose, we just feel more, more I don't know, more powerful. Perhaps, we're more full of ideas. We feel enthusiastic. We feel, we're just in the experience of life and getting a lot out of it and engaged in life. Whereas the opposite of that, if we think, well, I lack purpose, we're maybe people feel like they're drifting, or there's less meaning to their lives, or is that?
Yeah.
Well, what's useful to understand is that whole experience is always is going on internally. See, because the life that a human being has is an entirely psychological experience.
Yeah.
So there isn't a purpose floating around outside somewhere, and like, I found it. It just doesn't work in that way.
Yeah.
See, purpose really is a result of is when we're really fully present in the moment. Now, to qualify that is we're always in the moment, because there is only this moment as far as we're all concerned. You have this moment, but so many people, they're lost in thoughts of the past, so they're constantly churning over things that went on in the past. I can't, for example, a lot of people, they use what happened to them in the past as why they can't do something in the future or now. Or people are lost in the future, so they're making up all sorts of stuff about the future. But these are it's not that the past as a memory isn't useful, or to imagine the future isn't useful, because it's useful, but it's the misuse of our ability to think that is at the root of the problem. So, see, now if I take my own life as an example, see, to me, it's when you've got a clear and present state of mind. Well, your purpose is whatever you're doing in the moment. So, if I'm going down the gym and working out, well, if I'm present in that moment and enjoying it, well, that's my purpose in that moment. And if I'm, with my kids, then I'm with my kids. But also, we can all have that experience where if we're in our heads and worrying about something, or something's on our mind and we're churning it over, then you can be somewhere, but you're not in the moment. You're in your head.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're not living in that present moment and experiencing the example of in the gym, experiencing being in the gym. You're worrying about the work you're going to have to do when you get to your desk.
Yeah.
In
exactly.
an hour's time, or
exactly
what might be happening in 2 weeks' time in this big conference you might have or something.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore, if that's a habit, and it is for so many people that we've got into, where we're either constantly thinking about the past and the future or both, then we're not present, and that really is going to detract from any kind of sense of purpose. And if we take your friend as an example, now here's the thing that I think people might go, oh, is that true? But if people say, well, I don't like what I do, I don't like my job. Is the feeling of I don't like my job coming from the job, right?
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
And therefore it's almost like, if we think that's true, see, what's the way out of that one? See, the only way out of that one is that you have to change your job.
Yeah.
And until you change your job, you're full of these feelings of, I don't like the job, right? Well, what happens is, when we're in those kind of tight, constricted feelings that, if we believe, are coming from something outside of us, what it does, it makes our thinking very tight and constricted, see? And then if we're in the belief that the circumstances is causing the feeling, which is a complete misunderstanding, it's an innocent misunderstanding, but it's still a misunderstanding. If we believe that that's what's going on, Alex, then what it's going to look like is that I'm not going to feel any different until I change my job, or until I find my purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, so this idea of purpose, from what you're saying, is that something that's served from within you, or is it through what you're experiencing in the moment? Because from my personal experience, doing a job, as I said, that, was something that, it was a job that I wanted, obviously, was a job that I kind of could arguably say that I worked towards. And a lot of people I know in similar situations, but are not I wasn't enjoying it. And some people are not enjoying, currently. And they feel like there's something else out there for them to serve this purpose. Where does that feeling come from? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the feeling comes from our thought in the moment.
Yeah.
So the experience that we're having in our lives, moment by moment, is coming from our thought in the moment. See, so it's not coming from our circumstances. Now, one of the things you can point people towards is right. Well, we've all been children in our lives, right? At one point. Now, you think it would be utterly ridiculous to go to a 3 or 4 year old child. What's your purpose in life? They're going to go, what? Well, but they never lack purpose, right? Because the purpose is whatever they're doing in the moment, and they're fully engaged in that. When you're a little kid, you can get into anything, and it's just a sense of being fully engaged in, doing a painting or making something or playing a game with your friends, or whatever it may be, and that is really how we're designed, to really just be with whatever it is that we're doing.
Yeah. So is the concept of a purpose then a made up thing?
Yeah. Well, I think it's made up in the sense that if we think that there is some kind of activity outside of us that exists, and until we meet with that, and if we're lucky enough to meet with that and engage in it, we won't have a sense of purpose. That is the idea that gets in the way.
Yeah. And is I guess the lack of purpose then, is that created through external factors? So, using the example of someone who does an office job, again, that they're not particularly enjoying, and the pressure of needing to work to live and earn money versus doing something that you enjoy or enjoy more but don't earn money from, is that pressure of earning the money to live, to survive, and all of the things that we're taught come with it, creating this idea of giving people a sense of lack of purpose, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, okay. So to kind of speak to what you said, which I think is important, is so you mentioned pressure.
Yeah.
So if someone feels pressure, where's that? Where where's the pressure coming from?
The mind, the thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, the pressure's not in the job, or the pressure's not coming, So, yeah, of course, people...
But is the pressure not existing externally because you do need to earn money, you do need to pay your rent or your mortgage or, buy food, whatever it is.
Okay, so let's take it as factual that if you want to continue to live your life in the way that you've been living it, in terms of you've got a house, you've got a mortgage, you've got to put food on the table, you want to eat, you want to do the things that you want to do. Okay, so let's say that you in order to be able to do that, you need money. Okay, so you've got to get the money from somewhere. Well, what I think it's really important to understand for all of us that our experience is not being created by our circumstances. Our experience is being created through our thought in the moment. Okay, so, and you think, well, how can that be true? Well, let's say, for example, we take your friend who doesn't like his job. Well, equally, there's people who do exactly the same job as him who probably love it. Right? When you think, well, if the experience was coming from the job, then, or an experience from anything is creating the experience that someone is having internally, then we'd all have the same experience. And clearly that's not true, right? And the other thing that's true is we can change our mind. So we can think one way about something. Like, for example, your friend might have, presumably he didn't get the job in the first place because he thought, I really hate that job, I think I'll go for that one. He's probably thought, well, that's going to... But over time, his thinking has changed, right, over the job. But it looks to him like the experience he's having is coming from the fact that he doesn't, there's something going on with the job. Well, as soon as you break that link and you start to understand that the job's not making you feel bad, then there's no reason why you can't get the most out of your life circumstances in the moment, whatever they may be, but still have an ambition to go on to something else. The thing with it is ideas show up, and a sense of purpose shows up when we're in a clear and present state of mind. And yet, if we're in a very, we can get through our thinking, we can get into a state of mind where, if we think it's got something to do with our circumstances, we think, well, actually, I'd be okay if I found my purpose. But that's not gonna work, because it's a misunderstanding of how life actually works.
So it kind of comes back to the thing of what the experience you're creating from within. Is that the best way of putting
your
it?
Experience that you're having moment by moment is thought in the moment. Okay. And the natural design of the mind, if you like, is one of presence and clarity. But we go in and out of that. Our thinking speeds up and our thinking slows down. And now that's not a problem if you understand that that's the nature of thought. That it goes up and down, and it's got nothing to do with your circumstances. But if you think it has got something to do with your circumstances, so like you're in a feeling state that feels tight and constricted, and it happens to happen while you're at work, you might go, oh yeah, it's because of my job. But it isn't. See? And so as soon as we start to understand that there is no connection between our external circumstances and our internal experience, then, well, when you break that, you understand that's a cause-effect relationship that doesn't exist. Well, you're not going to be hoodwinked by your own thinking. See? And then basically there's no reason why, as I say, you can't get the most out of whatever you happen to be doing in the moment with a full sense of purpose, but also, know that, well, actually, there's a direction I want to go in my life, and I'm going towards that.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Hopefully.
So have you got a final word then on purpose?
Well, for me, it's just, if you've got this idea that there's a purpose out there and all you've got to do is find it, that that's not an idea that's going to help you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as I wrote in the blog post, I mean, if we look at people in society, who you think to yourself, wow, that person that, you know, clearly has an incredible sense of purpose. And I used examples of like Lewis Hamilton, you know, the Formula One driver.
Yeah.
You know, you'd say, wow, you know, totally on purpose, that guy, right?
Yeah.
Or J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
You know, well, I would say that these people, they would have a sense of purpose with whatever they were doing. It's not like the purpose of being a racing driver or a writer or whatever it happens to be. You know, you and it have been united, and then you've run off into the sunset together to live happily ever after, evermore. It's a way of, it's, you know, like I say, those people would have a sense of purpose. Yeah. Whatever activity.
But is it maybe with them that with those specific examples, they're more able to be in the moment, writing, driving, than they would be, you know, horse riding, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, you know.
Well, I think any of us can be fully present with what we're doing with anything. You know, so it isn't an ability thing. Yeah. So it and people can find examples of that, Alex, in their lives all the time. You know, it's like, you know, you can do what you do with a sense of just being present with it, whatever that activity may be.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Awesome. So, where can people find you online? Connect you? Where would they be able to read this blog post if it's still available?
I've got Dashfield.com, which is the site that people come to find me. I've also got another site called ClientCenteredAdvisors.com, which is where that particular blog post was.
But that's
a specific business aimed at the financial services business. But the best place to find me is Dashfield.com.
Cool. Perfect. And guys, as ever, you can always connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at I am Alex Manzi. And if you have not listened to part 1 and part 2, which are on time and overthinking in that order, then make sure you go and listen to those now, before you go and do anything else, obviously. But thanks again for listening. Always a pleasure. Hopefully you took a lot from John's words there and wisdom, and make sure you go out there and chase your dreams.